Well, guys, that was interesting. I'm back. I was overweight by a lot more than the weight ticket said I was. They normally scale us at there where I pick up at, and they had me at 34,100 on the trailer wheel. And normally by the time you get to the weigh station, it all shakes out. I mean, it's a powder, moves around. Well, I went over their scale and I was at 35,100 something. 35,153, I don't know. And they pulled me in, wrote me a warning. More CSA points that I don't need. And I think those are big ones. I'll have to find out. Nothing I can do about it. I tried. All I can do is hit the brakes hard and try to move it forward. I did that a couple of times, and it changed it a little bit, but maybe 100 pounds. So when it's cold like it is out now, it doesn't. That powder doesn't move around as much as when it's summertime. It's fluffier when it's hot. But the scale at the shipper must have been way off, because it said 34 and change on the ticket. So, don't know. So yeah, more CSA points, just what I needed. Tell you, man, Indiana is becoming a fucking Nazi police state for truck drivers. They just have troopers everywhere on all the state routes. You know, anytime they see you doing anything, half a mile an hour, 2 miles an hour over the limit, they pull you over to do an inspection, which they get money for from the feds, either directly through compensation or, you know, they write more inspections so they get more federal highway money. You know, either way, it's bullshit. But the guy in there, he said they usually 35,000 is usually their cutoff. That's good to know, I guess. So, yay! More CSA points for no good reason. I mean, normally it settles out. I mean, it can be over a bit, and as you're driving down the road, the powder moves around, you know. But I guess this day it didn't. It's pretty cold out. It's about 20-some degrees overnight, and it's about 25 degrees when I left. And now I got to stop and get fuel too, so that put me behind even more. What were we talking about? Oh, that's right, guns and ammo. So, as I said, I want to get some more magazines, be a little more prepared with the weapons we have. But the more interesting thing that I've been doing a lot of research, and I enjoy doing research on products and stuff. Other than the .22 rifle, I really don't have any kind of a long gun, shotgun or rifle. So I started thinking about that, and ran into a couple of things that are intriguing and kind of fun. My original thought was to get some kind of rifle, and I ran across an interesting gun that is, I guess, pretty popular right now. It's also very inexpensive. It's called a Mosin Nagant. And most people say Mosin Nagant, but it's actually Mosin Nagant. You don't say the T and it's an O, Mosin. Anyway, it doesn't matter how you say it, I really don't care. But the Mosin Nagant 9130 They saw heavy action in World War II and way before that, even World War I. It was designed in 1894. And then slightly redesigned in 1930. That's where you get the 9130 from, or maybe it's 9130. So it's not 1891, 1930 was the slight redesign, and it was pretty much used exclusively. It was the battle rifle for the Russians for that entire time, and it was extensively used during the Second World War. The cool thing is, you can pick them up. They're in a box. They've been dunked in cosmoline, which is like a sticky lubricant preservative thing. Generally, everything is matching. It'll come with the bayonet, the bolt, the frame, the bayonet will have matching numbers, clearly stamped on it when it was built, and you can find out all kinds of things based on the markings that are on it, on the metal parts and the wooden barrel. I mean the wooden stock. Come on, you piece of shit, let's go. And it shoots 7.62 by 54R, which is not a problem. You get the ammunition. They still make it new. So there's not a problem with ammunition. But the cool thing is there is a shit ton of bulk ammunition. You can go to the gun stores. I said we went to the gun show. I found vacuum packed, medical. It looks like a Spam can, but it's real big. 440 rounds for like $90. And most of it's corrosive powder, so you do got to be a little more anal retentive about cleaning it when you're done shooting it. But that's, not such a big deal. And you can put a scope on it. It's supposed to be pretty accurate. But the cool thing is, you can pick them up for like $100. I mean, we're talking pretty high power rifle for $100. And as long as you're not expecting to put a $200 sight on it and spend $100 on the trigger work to make it better, it's a good bargain. They shoot accurately. They're very reliable, easy to take down. They're heavy, but they're accurate. And for $100. The other cool thing is that it's kind of like a Cracker Jack box with a gun in it, because you get to open up a box and you don't really know what's going to be inside of it. Now, I found a distributor at the gun show where they have opened the boxes and written on the box what was inside, and then they charge appropriately. Apparently, for a long time, you can order it from Cabela's for like $125. You used to be able to get them for $99, apparently. But now they're about $125 on Cabela's.com. You're going to get the gun in a box. It'll come with the gun, the bayonet, the bolt, and the cleaning kit, and usually I think a strap comes with it too, but I'm not sure. But you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what year it was made. So it's kind of like a little Christmas present with a surprise. It might be 1928, might be 1945, might be 1950 something. But the cool thing is that if you get one that was made during the war years, it's almost 100% probability that it was actually issued to a soldier. Now, it can't be guaranteed that it saw battle. I mean, could have been a guy at a guard post, just walking back and forth, guarding a post. You don't know. There's no way to find out where the gun spent its time at. But it is pretty cool. Now, you may be able to tell a little bit by the stock. If you can find one that hasn't been gone back to the factory, and apparently a lot of them have. But if you find one where everything matches, and there's some battle scars on the wooden stock, probably a good indication that it saw some use. And that's, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty cool. And for $100 you get a reliable, accurate, inexpensive, well-made, as most of the Russian stuff was. I mean, you know, they did make pretty good stuff back then. You know, heavy duty. You know, it's not going to break. But to get something like that inexpensive and durable and reliable and accurate, and also that has some history. I mean, some Russian soldier might have been walking around on the battlefield, you know, fighting the Nazis with the rifle you own. And there's something about it that's kind of cool. The history of it is kind of fun. And at $100, it's pretty hard to go wrong, you know. So that's what I started thinking was, you know, high power rifle gives you some range. Handguns are great, but if you need to reach out and touch someone from a distance, you need a rifle. And I don't own one other than a 22. So that was my original thought. And I came across the Mosin Nagant, and I was like, that's perfect. That's you know, I know there are better modern rifles, but when you add in the inexpensiveness of the ammunition to shoot it and the availability of it in bulk, I mean, you really could, you know, for target practice or for your regular shooting, you could buy new, which is a little cleaner, maybe a little more accurate. But if you want to stock up for, you know, the zombie apocalypse, pretty easy to get a hold of a couple, you know, 5,000 rounds. Oh, that's probably more than you really would need with a bolt-action rifle, but you could certainly pick up a couple thousand rounds at a very reasonable cost. And because it's in that Spam can, it's already in perfect storage. As long as that container is not breached, there's no reason why that ammunition wouldn't be good for another 50 years. It really isn't. And a lot of it is that, some of it, it'll be stamped on the top. The ones I saw were made in 1980, but some of the earlier stuff is even better quality. Saw a guy on YouTube that had picked up some that was made in like 1950. Picked up some bulk made in 1950, and it was actually, it was brass case, not steel case. Had a heavier bullet. It just looked like it was, the bullet was made better. And but they all shoot good. So the bad thing about those Spam cans is you got to use a can opener to get the damn thing open, and it is a pain in the ass. Not something you can just do quickly. So if the zombie apocalypse happens, what you probably want to do is open up those, if you know you're going to be in a conflict situation, probably want to open up those cans and dump them in an ammo can that you can just reach in and grab 5 at a time. It has a 5-round magazine, but the magazine is built into the gun. You pull the bolt back and you push them in from the top and load them individually. You can also use stripper clips to shove them in, but according to Nut and Fancy, some of the aftermarket stripper clips are not that good, and they'll cut your hands, and they don't work that well. It is a rim round, so you can have some problems with the rim getting caught, and it'll jam up, and that can be kind of a pain in the ass to clear in the heat of the moment. But you need to hunt, deer hunt with it, no problem. You know, it's got more. It's a high power round. There's no problem bringing down any large animal with that round. Velocity, I think, is about 2,000 or 2,500 feet per second. So, you know, more than adequate. So anyway, that was my first thought, was some kind of high power rifle. And I'm thinking I am going to get one of those, because just for $100 it's worth it just to have. Just if you put it in the house and just shoot it occasionally, for $100 it's a cool piece of history, you know. And I think it's a very attractive looking weapon. It looks like a 19th century battle rifle, because that's what it is, you know. And that's something cool about that. Started thinking, the property that we own, you know, there's people that live to the one side and the other. They're not right on us, but There's a mountain on one side and a kind of a mountain on the other, so we're in a bit of a valley. And there really isn't any place on the property where you're more than 100 yards away from trees, which means your visibility is kind of limited. Well, you go shooting that high-power rifle off, how do you know there's not somebody walking around in the woods? You know? And so I started thinking, well, maybe the more useful thing for the zombie apocalypse in particular would be a carbine. And I again, this all kind of came together kind of randomly, and then I started putting the pieces together in my mind as to what maybe the better, what order of things, you know, on a limited budget, what order of things do you do? And came across another firearm that actually discovered it with their handguns, and then discovered the carbines, and I'm leaning that way. And you guys may laugh, and you know, don't bother to post negative things about these guys. Anyway, the brand is called High Point, and yeah, I know it's got a bad reputation as a weapon. Their handguns in particular are known to have some feeding problems, although everything I have seen points to the fact that it's generally the magazine is the problem. And I've seen plenty of nothing fancy. Another guy I saw yesterday, if you get a good magazine, they feed fine and they shoot very accurately, handguns, and they're cheap. You can pick up a 40 caliber handgun for like $150. Pretty hard to go wrong. It's not a good carry conceal gun because they are big, fat, ugly looking, nasty looking guns. Trigger's not that great. Low capacity for the size, but they are accurate because the barrel is a blowback design. The barrel is built into the frame, which makes it inherently pretty accurate. The sights are good. You can adjust for windage and elevation on the handgun, on the rear sight. Pretty impressive for a $150 gun. They use orange on the rear sights, yellow on the front sight, or maybe it's vice versa, I can't remember. I think it's orange and yellow. So the change in color is kind of interesting. And it's cheap. So it's a good gun to load up, put in the nightstand, throw in the trunk of the car, boat, put one in a watertight box, bury it someplace out in the property, you know, so it's there already when you get there, in case something happens and you don't have a weapon. You know, I'd be willing to take a $150 gun, bury it in a sealed box, wrap it up, and bury it. Your risk of losing, you're losing $150 if somebody steals it, but you're also preparing ahead of time. So that was one thing I had thought of. But then I came across that they make a carbine, 9mm 40 and 45, same as their handguns. Same kind of issue. The magazines can be a little hinky, although not so much as the handguns. And you do need to make sure that you slap them all the way and that they seat. The magazine doesn't seat all the way; it won't feed correctly. But again, nothing fancy. You ever checked out his website? He's got some really cool videos. He did one. Just go to his channel and search for High Point 995 testing trench warfare, and he runs the trench with one of those. And he says it's a great rifle. It's exceptionally accurate with the stock sights. It's reliable as long as you slap that magazine hard. You don't baby it. You can't just click it and go. You need to smack that magazine up in there and not be easy with racking it. And it's got good, you know, it'll fire as quick as you can pull the trigger. Trigger's not great, same as their handguns, a little heavy pull, but they are accurate. And you can pick up a carbine for under $300, maybe 200, 250, 225, if you can find one. And I started thinking, carbine even with a handgun round, has an effective range of probably 75 to 100 yards. You can put a scope on it. It's got the tooth rack on the top. I don't know what that's called. You can put any kind of scope on it you want. The factory sights are pretty good, but you can put a scope on it, red dot, a magnification scope, and they're you could take down an animal, deer, boar, 50 to 75 yards. You could kill with a large animal with good shot placement. That being key. A handgun round doesn't have enough energy to knock something off of its feet at that kind of range. So you need to aim it well. But the high point carbine aims well, and it's accurate. So if you're good and you're good with your weapon, you can be pretty confident that you're going to get a good shot. And you just need to know if it's a little beyond the range, you don't take the shot. But on the property that we have, with people around, a handgun round is a little safer. The probability of it traveling, quarter of a mile and killing somebody is pretty low. And the other positive is that it shoots handgun rounds, which I've got a 9mm, she's got a 40 caliber, so it would share ammunition with weapons we already have. That is a positive in my mind. And honestly, if you have a zombie apocalypse where you're defending against people, a mass of people coming after your food, quite frankly, the carbine is probably the better choice. I pray to God that nothing like that ever happens to me. But I think the shorter barrel carbine is probably the better thing to have in a zombie apocalypse type environment. So again, the priorities kind of shifted when I started thinking about it. I need to get over this pavement up there is really bad. So I think the order of importance is going to be get more magazines for the weapons we own, more ammunition, reloadable ammunition for the weapons we own. Costs a little bit more to get brass case, but if you are going to be stuck out there, you could reload that. Whereas if you get steel case, it's a little bit cheaper, but you can't reload it. And I've done reloading, so I know how to do that. I don't have the equipment any longer, but I could get some. So again, more mags, more ammo for the weapons we own. Pick up a carbine that shoots ammo for the weapons we already own. And then pick up the Mosin Nagant after that. Given the cost of all of these things, I may not do it in that order. If I can swing getting a Mosin next weekend, I might do that just because I'd rather have it now. I don't have one, and if the zombie apocalypse happens in 2 weeks, I'd rather have it than not have it. So the carbine is going to cost a little bit more to get going, because it's going to come with 1 or 2 mags. Probably ought to get 4 or 5 more magazines. The good thing is in Kentucky, to shoot deer, to deer hunt, you can use any centerfire round. So I can use the carbine to do that. Obviously, you have to be a responsible person and not try to shoot it from too far away. You need to be close enough that you're going to kill it. You don't want to wound a deer running off into the woods. That's totally not cool. But and also that 45. The 40 caliber, which is the guy at the gun shop recommended the 40. He said the 9mm is good. The 40's got more velocity and more energy. The 45 has more energy but less velocity, and will not have as good a penetration. So he said, really, your best bet is the 40 caliber. It gives you the best of penetration and energy. And my wife has a 40 caliber handgun. So if I got a 45, that's one more ammunition that I don't have that I got to buy. And it's more expensive ammunition too. So he said, get the 40. And he said, no problem hunting. And with hogs in Kentucky, although she said she's never seen a hog in our property, and I couldn't believe it. It's mountains, and hogs don't like hills, so you know they like the flat prairie land more. They really don't climb mountains too much, and there's way too many hills in that property, so I don't expect to really ever see a wild boar. But in Kentucky, wild boar is open season, year-round, no bag limit, and the weapon limitation is the same, center fire. Now in Ohio, deer can only be taken with shotgun, deer slug or whatever. So that's kind of the game plan. You know, and I know the high points are, you know, there are better weapons out there, but not at that price point. And one thing about High Point is they're made in Ohio, made in Mansfield, Ohio, or near there. It's like Iberia, Ohio, or Iberia, something like that. But it's near Mansfield. And they have a lifetime warranty, and their customer service is exceptionally good. They answer the phone. You got a problem with your weapon, they will take care of it. They are really good at that. And basically, if you know how to tweak a magazine a little bit, usually you can fix a problem yourself if you have one. But the repeating action in the weapon is not bad. The trigger's not great. It looks terrible. It looks like a Planet of the Apes gun. Nothing fancy called it a Planet of the Apes gun. It doesn't look pretty. You know what? I don't give a shit if it doesn't look pretty. I need it to shoot reliably, and I need to do it at an affordable price. You know, if I had money falling on my ass, sure, I'd get something else. Maybe. There again, that High Point is inexpensive enough. If I had money falling out of my ass, maybe you take one and 1,000 rounds of ammunition or 2,000 rounds of ammunition, put it in a couple of boxes, bury it in the property for when you get there. It's inexpensive enough that, not for me, but theoretically it is inexpensive enough of a weapon, you might do that. I had some ideas on how to take care of that too. Same with that Mosin Nagant or the handguns. I was thinking PVC pipe. Get the big ass, well, depending on however big the weapon is, just get some PVC pipe, cap the end of it, glue it, put the weapon in there, maybe throw some rice in a bag for moisture, you know, to keep it dry. Although there really shouldn't, once it's sealed, it should be okay. But if there is any moisture trapped in there, you don't want it to rust your weapon. So throw some rice or some of that absorbent stuff, you know, in there with it. Chuck some ammunition in with it too. Maybe put the weapon down in there, and then just fill it up with ammunition. Cap it, glue it. Maybe put some more glue around the seams. Wrap it in place, although the PVC should be impervious to water completely. Just get the thick stuff, the gray or the white, whatever's better, and then bury it. It could probably stay in that container for 50 years as long as it didn't crack. Hide it in a tree. You know, paint it, camo paint it, and hide it somewhere if you didn't want to bury it. Burying it would probably be the smart thing, though. And bury it with a landmark that you know, so you can fucking find it again. You don't want to put an orange flag over the top of it. That would be kind of a, you know, that'd be a giveaway. But you could bury it. You know, there's all kinds of options, and it's good that there's options, you know. I mean, not everybody has a big budget to go buy guns. I don't. One other option could be for us, too. We know somebody that has collected quite a few SKSs, and the SKS is a great weapon as well. So instead of the Mosin Nagant, or maybe you get both, I don't know. There is some advantages to a bolt action, a little simpler. You don't have the repeating action, getting dirty. Although the action on a SKS or an AK-47 is pretty resilient to dirt and grime. But if I had to dunk something in the dirt and wash it off, you're probably more likely to have a successful situation with a bolt action. I mean, you can take the bolt, you know, the bolt comes out real easy. You dunk it in some water, if you had to. Obviously, you'd want to relubricate it eventually. But if you dunked it in the sand or the dirt, you could take the weapon, take the bolt out, shove it in the creek, rinse it off, and put it back together, and it should shoot. That would probably work with an AK-47 too, but if shit gets down in there, you know, it's liable to jam up. So there are some advantages to the bolt action. The negative is that follow-up shot takes a lot longer to do. However, that can be positive because when you got a semi-automatic weapon, it's really easy to sit there and blink off a bunch of rounds that you didn't need. And with a bolt action, I think maybe you take a little more time on the shot. You know, you run through your ammunition a little slower. And if you're going to be cut off from civilization for some period of time or maybe forever, saving that ammunition is important. You don't want to be plinking off a bunch of rounds for no reason. That's one of the bad things about the surplus ammunition. I forgot to mention that. You can get, like I said, 440 rounds in a tin box for, tin can for like $85 to $90, something like that. Most of it's steel case, and that is not reloadable. So maybe what you do is you pick up some rounds of that, and then you try to buy a case of brass so that you could reload that eventually. You know, maybe you use the cheap ammo during the zombie apocalypse, and save the brass for, you know, the next 10 years when civilization is rebuilding itself or something, you know. By the way, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a Planet of the Apes or you know, Mad Max type thing where civilization falls and you know, we end up, you know, back to the Stone Age essentially. I don't think that's the situation. I think it's going to be, something is going to happen, and you're going to need to be able to be on your own for some period of time, a week to a month, and then however long it takes for society to reconstruct itself. This is something I think I mentioned in my last video about listening to Daryl Parks on 700 WLW, and he went to New Orleans right after Katrina, and it was very clear to him that civil authority and civility came to an end in 24 hours. The city fell apart. No government, no police, no fire, no protection. You were on your own. And a lot of people died. And of course a lot of people died because they didn't leave when they were told to leave. But regardless, the situation is that it's naive for us to believe that we live in a polite civil society with police and fire and law, and that will always be the case. If the shit hits the fan, believe me, the government is not going to, especially if it's a worldwide or national type event, the government is not going to come save your ass. They might in a month. But if Katrina happened all over the country at the same time, nah, you're on your own. And you better have at least the basics ready to go. look on the internet. You can find 72-hour emergency kits. They give you usually freeze-dried food in pouch form, breakfast, lunch, dinner, variety of stuff to last you for 72 hours. I think you could probably double that. If you were in an unknown situation, not knowing when help was going to come, I think I would use my resources as frugally as possible. You know, they give you enough to eat 3 meals in a day for 72 hours. Okay, you could probably get away with eating one of those meals. Most Americans have enough reserves on their belly. Now, if you're a very active person, that might not be the case, but most of us can survive on a lot less calories than we do. Especially if you're going to hunker down and stay where you are. We live in an apartment. One of the first things you got to do, and watch any Survivor show, first thing you got to decide to do, are you going to stay where you are and wait for rescue or the world to fix itself, or are you going to get out? You need to make that decision pretty quickly. And so if it looks like it's going to be a few days, power's out, ice storm, you know, not a national catastrophe, just a local disruption in services, you're going to stay where you are. You've got shelter already. That's good. Third World War looks like it's about ready to start. That's a hard one. And a bit of a random toss. You might be better off to stay where you are. Bomb might be landing on your city and you'll die. Maybe you would have been better to leave. You don't know. And that's something like that. You just got to make a decision and do it. But when you go, when you decide to leave, you decide to go out to that property, and you're going to stay. You need to take everything that you think you might need, because you're probably not going to come back for it. Every drop of gasoline that's available to you, generator if you have one, ammo, guns, food, clothing, every blanket, every pillow, every piece of clothing that makes sense. You know, prom dress, probably not, unless you want to use it for fabric. But things like blankets, heavy clothing, you know, sweatpants, jeans, long sleeve shirts, ball caps, something to block your eyes, sunglasses. You know, if you have a problem with, I do, I'm pretty sensitive to light, so sunglasses is something I would miss a lot if I didn't have it. And a ball cap to shade your eyes. Just little shit like water. There's water on our property, so we'd be okay. Pots and pans. A container. People forget about that stuff. What are you going to boil the water in? What are you going to cook the rabbit in? Bring the pots and pans. Bring the skillet. Bring your knives, your kitchen utensils, forks, spoons. Just anything you can think of. Paper, maybe. I don't know. Pens and, you know, pen and pencils. Probably pencils would be better. And you know, bug out. You got to have the thing ready to go, or at least most of it, so you can hop in the car and go. So let me know what you guys think. I know there's some other really great carbines out there too. The Kel-Tec SU2000 was also very highly rated by Nothing Fancy, but it's about $400 though. It's lighter, looks better, more magazine capacity. So you can get a 30-round mag for it. So but you know, again, I think I'd rather have it, get some more magazines, and you know, if the budget allows later, get a better one to add to the arsenal. It's not a bad thing to have two carbines. Again, I think I would pick them so that they would have the same caliber, you know. And lastly, would be to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow, which I don't know how to do. I can shoot a rifle pretty good, shoot a handgun pretty good. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with a bow and arrow. Because if you do end up in a situation where, you know, civilization's kind of over for the foreseeable, for your lifetime, regardless of how much bulk ammo you have, how much reloading equipment you have, how much powder you have, it eventually is gone. And you're not going to be able to get more. So, the good thing about a bow and arrow is that you can shoot things with it and then retrieve your arrows. You can ultimately, even though those will break. So, what I would do is while you have the time and the ammunition, fuck, come on, man. While you have the ammunition and the time, learn how to make a bow. And I saw this on, I think, Dual Survival. It's a good show. One of the guys made a bow. You found the glass mason jar, used the bottom of it, chipped it out, made an arrow out of the glass, and actually killed something with it. It was either a turkey or I think it was a turkey. And it wasn't that hard. Yeah, just string. He used 550 paracord. If you didn't have that, you probably need to have use sinew, which you got to know how to make. And if you don't know how to make it, then you can't make the bow and arrow. So, alright guys, the Loves is right here, and I'm going to keep filming, but I'm going to have to stop for fuel up here. So yeah, bow and arrow, you know, crossbow, maybe a good middle ground, but there again, you're going to be on your own for the rest of your life, and your kid's life, and your grandkid's life. Eventually that crossbow's probably going to break. You can probably learn how to build one, perhaps. Obviously, crossbows were built, you know, but not with stone tools. I mean, crossbows in the, you know, dark ages or whatever, you know, they still used metal, banding, and the probability of you learning how to be a blacksmith and having the equipment to do it, you know, not going to happen. You're going to be left to hunting and gathering, and mostly gathering, quite frankly. One other positive about that High Point 9 carbine, you can take it to the target range, the indoor target range, and shoot it. Great weapon to just plink targets with. Can't really do that with the high-power rifle. You have to go to, usually it's an outdoor range or a special range. So, my question for you guys out in Chicagoland, if anybody is out there. Something happened to Mike McConnell on 720 WGN, and last couple of weeks I tried tuning in on my TuneIn Radio on my Android phone, and it's been somebody else during his time block. Did they move him, or is he just on vacation or something? I was just curious. He was in Cincinnati on 700 WLW for like 25 years and left to go work for WGN. So I just was wondering if anybody knew. There's an online transport truck. I used to work for them. Decent company. Nice trucks. Almost all of them are Volvos. Should have went. Maybe not. And great, there's no fucking aisles available. Alright guys. Hey, Red Express! I used to work for them too! That's fucking bizarre! Holy shit! I'll have to ask him because I was thinking about going back to work for them. See you guys. Bye.